Okay, you have to put it back. Okay.
Make sure my phone is like not on ring. Yes. My phone broke the other day. Like it just like the motherboard crashed. Like it went into like this. I have an Android phone and it just like it just went.
Before we begin, can I have those in the back come a little bit closer to the front? Since we're like small in number, just a little bit up closer. We could still social distance while we're closer. All right, well, good afternoon.
Oh, that works. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you guys here today. Welcome to our session, Stand Up, Speak Out, and Be Assertive in the Workplace. So my name is Shadane Ferraro. I'm a former mentor at the World Bank, currently a MIT professional student. Just a little bit about me, something fun. I believe in aliens, like extraterrestrial. I love country music, and I jiggle a little bit to dancehall music, so don't judge me. Today's panelist, I have right here to my left, Sandra Richardson. She is the resource manager for NASA Advanced Enterprise Global Information Technology Solution. Her top 5 strengths are on the board. Just to let you guys know, she is a spoiled brat. I didn't want to say that, but she's her mama's twin. She looks just like her mom. And she's a mother of 2 handsome sons and 4 grands and 2 bonus grands. We have Nader. He's the account manager of Actalent. His top 5 strengths: work ethics, development. He's a team player and also a student, which means he's constantly learning. He enjoys sports, basketball, right? And then I have Joanne Miranda. And funny story, there's a country singer, Miranda. She's one of my favorite. She's really good. She's a team player. Her job title, she is the lead program manager of supply chain operations at Google. Yeah, right. And we will get right into it. So just a quick reminder, you could also go to the conference app. You could click on any one of our names and read our full bio from there. Oh, there's a lot going on. And we will just get right into our presentation. So today's presentation, we will be looking at pretty much what it is to be assertive in the workplace. By the time we leave here, we should know how to say no without feeling any form of guilt. We should know the difference between how to be professionally assertive, unprofessionally assertive. And from there, we're gonna look at I'm gonna interview my panelists because that's the flow. And then in the end, I'm gonna turn to the audience and we will have some Q&A from the audience. Just to let you guys know, those who are online, they will not hear us. If we have a question, I would ask you to step forward to the mic and ask your question from there because we're live right now online. All right. So pretty much, I'm just gonna turn to Sandra, because there's a difference between unprofessional assertiveness and there's professional assertiveness. And for me in my career, I personally don't believe that I'm an assertive person. I'm one of those person that will be like, okay, that is what it is. I'm pretty much diplomatic in my affairs, so yes, that is what it is. I know how to say yes and no at the same time and just move on. So I agree and disagree, because I don't like confrontation. So if you could just elaborate on what it is exactly, distinguish between professional assertiveness and unprofessional assertiveness so the audience can hear.
Sure. Oh, let's see. I had to get a little closer here. I don't think that's working. Yeah, it's working. Can y'all hear me? All right. So when I think about being professional assertiveness, is that I'm confident on what I know. When I walk into a room, I have a facade about me that says I know what I'm talking about. I'm confident about that. I'm not arrogant. And my response to you will be one that's direct and firm, yet not confrontational. If I am unprofessional, when my walk in the room is going to have a different swag, I might be nodding my head like, yeah, bring it on, not professional. And all of my responses will be confrontational. I will not have any regards to your opinion. And I may use even choice words that are not professional because I want to get my point across. So unprofessional assertiveness is not using profanity. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not being smart-mouthed. I'm not being cocky. So that's the difference. It's okay to be confident, but it's a difference of being confident and being arrogant. Understand that? So I believe that there is a distinction between being professional and unprofessional, especially in the workplace. And let me just say this, not even in the workplace. I think that in our world today, confrontations come about because of the way we respond. If I want to be respected for what I think or what I do know, it's all about how I come across. So if I want to keep down the noise of the mess, we have to watch how we come in and watch how we say it. You know, we hear it all the time. It's not what I said, it's how I said it.
That's true. That is so true. And you know, sometimes as a woman, we tend to shy away from letting our voice be heard. I'm one of those person. I'm an extrovert and introvert. Well, I just found out last night that I'm an extrovert. All my life I believed that I'm an introvert until after a few glasses of wine. So my next question is going to Joanne, and how have you gone against the status quo to advance an initiative and grow your career, breaking limiting beliefs? Because sometimes we limit ourselves by our beliefs. So how have you break those beliefs?
Thank you, Sadine. Yeah, so early in my career, I took a role, it was like mid-career, and the role was something totally outside of my normal wheelhouse, out the realm of what I was comfortable with. So I felt like initially I couldn't have a voice, and I had to just go along with the status quo and really not make too many waves. But what I realized early in that role is I said, hey, I might not be an expert in this particular genre, but these things maybe aren't the best way to do it. So while the content I might not have been the expert in, there were some things that transcended across different areas. So I took this initiative in a situation to say, we should do this a little differently. Like, let's change our deliverable. Is the deliverable that we're sending out to our customers, to our consumers of our product, is it meeting their needs? So that's one way. And in that situation, I kind of model that after a lot of the things that I do, how to make sure that someone is getting what they need from you. So if you're delivering something and it's, status quo, it's not serving the need of the customer, it doesn't do you any benefit to keep doing it the same way and no one benefits from it. So I've taken some initiative to kind of go against that grain and say, hey, let's change our work product, and not just change it for the sake of change, but here's how what we're doing is being consumed. Here's how it's being used, and making sure that it's modeled to fit that. And with that, I was able to have more confidence that even though I don't know everything about this particular topic, I know how someone's going to use this product and how to make it more efficient, where other teams are going to come to us and have that credibility and know that we're giving them something that's going to be long-lived, and not just I'm going through the motions and checking a box because we've always done it that way.
Thank you. And just piggybacking on your elaboration, I'm going to pose this question to Nader. He's the only man on the panel right now, and I'm not putting you in the hot seat. Don't feel like I'm putting you in the hot seat.
I feel like I'm ready here.
So, how can a woman recognize the power that they have and use it as an asset? Just piggybacking off what she said.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought up that I am the only man that's up here, and you guys are probably wondering why, but I'm pretty passionate about empowering women to lead and to be respected and be treated as equals. I have a very strong wife, and she's very independent, and she is her own boss, and she acts like it. So I feel like, if I could take a step back a little bit, for me, there's also a play of being a minority male in a dominantly Caucasian workplace where do I find my place here in my organization? And I feel like until I figured out who I was, what I stand for, and it became my beliefs, then my actions followed. So it's my responsibility to not only help other women that I work with, who I work with very strong women in my organization as well. It's my responsibility to seek that out and see the opportunities where it's like, hey, there's an opportunity for you to maybe speak your mind, because I feel like sometimes it's like the point that you made is like you have to go through the waves and just conform. No, you don't. You could be yourself in the workplace and have a firm opinion and stand up for what you believe in. And I feel like the more that I can do to help that, then I hope that others see that and also do the same for others. So I hope that answers the question, but it's kind of, in my opinion, creating a space of comfort to allow women to feel like they could be their authentic selves. And that's my role and responsibility.
Thank you. I'm going to jump right back to Sandra, and I want to know, how do you distinguish between confidence and assertiveness? Because they're both similar, but at the same time, it differs. So what is your distinct?
So confidence, just being very, confident in knowing what you know. I mean, we're special women. We have had the luxury to gain so much access to learning now. Where in times past, I mean, I'm 60 years old, I'm and I can remember when my grandmother was growing up, the opportunities to be in the workplace, to lead and to learn wasn't prevalent for them. It wasn't the opportunity, they didn't have those opportunities. But as times has changed, we have been given the same opportunities, as Nara has said, as men had. So we have been able to gain a lot and learn a lot. And along with that, we have been taught that be confident in what you know. I mean, know what you know, stand on what you know. Don't let anybody persuade you for what you know, But at the same time, when it comes to assertiveness, you have to learn to take what you know from that confident perspective, but you got to be able to deliver it and be able to be assertive to a way that you're not being disrespectful or act in a way that's been coined that only women act. That if I'm in a room, I'm confident on what I know. If somebody's challenging me on my knowledge, my talents, my strengths, how do I come across to defend or stand firm on what I know? It all going to depend on how I respond, like I said before. So if I'm going to be assertive, I got to make sure I'm not being confrontational and that my emotions doesn't take over my confidence. Because that's sometimes I think what happens where we allow our feelings and our emotions. In my career of 40 years supporting NASA as a contractor, I have been in various circumstances where, number one, I was the only female, number two, I was the only black. And oftentimes, I have been challenged because of those two to say that she's not going to speak up because the room made me feel intimidated. So I grew out of that. I said, how do I learn to be as confident as my peers in the room without showing emotions? I had a young man that worked for me that was totally disrespectful all the time because he didn't want to work for a woman and he didn't want to work for a black woman. So he did everything he could to push my buttons on all occasions. When I had my team meetings, he was very rude. To the other team members were just totally embarrassed because of his actions. What he was trying to do was see how I was going to respond, how assertive I was going to be when he was in my meeting. So I could have easily been very assertive and says, this is my meeting, I'm the boss, and you'll do as I say. That wasn't going to get anywhere. It was not going to diffuse the situation. I had to sit down, accept it, analyze it, and figure out what's really going on until the day that I closed his door and says, tell me really what's wrong. He was going through a divorce. So his problem was not a black female, it was all females. But we got to the root of it, and guess what I said? I've been there. I've been through a divorce, and I'm here with you if you need me to help you. That's when the ice broke. But if I had to continue to push that button to be assertive, we would have never gotten anywhere, and I would have been conned as not a leader who can deal with conflict and deal in an environment, but I was a leader who was negatively assertive in an environment because I was just trying to prove the point that, I'm the boss. So that's the difference between being, I hope I answered the question, being confident and assertive. I never lost my confidence. Not being arrogant, but I never lost my confidence, all right? I tell people all the time, know what you know this what you know, and stand on it and be firm with that.
Thank you. That really answers the question. And I want to just move over a little bit to Joanne, because I'm just piggybacking off what she said, and I want to hear your take on it. So could you give me an example of any boundaries you've set in your workplace to maintain the balance of respect? Or how did you overcome any form of discomfort with a teammate? Or if you have other superiors or subordinates, how have you gone to just navigate through those problems?
Yeah, thank you. I've got a couple examples of boundaries. When you talk about respect with the boundary, there's one particular example that comes up that I think is probably beneficial, and maybe some of you have seen it. Being an engineer by degree and working in operations where it's typically very male-dominated, I had this experience where as an operations manager, I'm working with different sites. I am influencing and leading others. They don't report directly to me, but there's some codependency there. Their success is my success and vice versa. So I had this scenario where I go to a site, and the operator there was just, or like the lead there, he was very condescending to me, often. I would catch these little things, right? And to Sandra's, her example she shared, what I found out later is when I kept wondering, why is this person always coming for me and being so aggressive, I found out that person wanted the job that I was in. And so there was this just kind of deep-rooted something that was going on. But it came to a head. I was on a phone call with this person, and I would visit their site quite often, and went to hang up, and the person said, all right, kiddo. And I said, oh, no, come back. And like, they hung up before I could, address it. And I had to just take a moment and step back and think about, what did they just say to me? Why did they think that was okay? And so I had to get up and take a little walk down the hall, and I went to, a trusted confidant and said, hey, I want to bounce this off of you. How would you take this? And they, took it the way I took it, but they gave me some perspective to kind of help temper those emotions and settle things down so I wasn't pouring gasoline on that fire. So I think I made it what I think I ended up doing in that case, like with the boundaries and setting it, is I went back and I had a phone conversation. I called that person up and I said, hey, wanted to talk with you the other day. I think it was in the same week, might have been like the same day or like the following day, but I addressed it very early. So I think it's very important with boundaries and respect to address things immediately. So sometimes you might need a moment to go back and kind of collect yourself, but not letting things fester. So I went back and I said, hey, when you did this, I did not like that. And I would not like you to address me like that again. That cannot happen. And I thought that was going to be enough. And my response from that person I received was, well, why not? Why isn't that okay? And so I was kind of like, what's going on here? And so then I said, okay, let me break this down and be very explicit with you. When you say this, it comes off as condescending and disrespectful, and you are diminishing my role, and you're diminishing what I bring to this team and what I do. It's not appropriate. And so when I put that in there in a context, I still didn't feel they received it, but I knew that I had been very clear in setting a boundary. This is not how you will address me. This is how we'll move forward. And I was prepared that if this person, I don't feel that respect, at least I know that I've been very clear. They can do what they do. I'm not responsible for their actions. So to my surprise, I had a note in my inbox the next morning. Joanne, I'm so sorry. That will not happen again. I realized that what I said was wrong and, got a little too comfortable. So, I've had that happen before, and I just think with boundaries, it's really important to make sure that respect is not being lost.
That's good. And I just want to go to the topic of no, because I struggle with saying no. And don't get me wrong, I am not a people pleaser. It's just that saying no for me is just hard. It's hard. So this is an open question, and I'm going to open the mic for all three of you. Can you give an example when you said no and it didn't turn out the way you expected it to? And I'm going to start with Nader.
Me personally?
Yes.
Oh, jeez. I think I struggle saying no too. I feel like it's hard when you say the first no to someone who has continuously taken advantage of your time. So I could provide several examples. But I feel like, to Joanne's point about respect, each time you agree and say yes, even when you don't want to, you're losing some self-respect there. So I try to put myself in positions of, hey, I don't like to half-ass things. I don't like to not give it 100%. So the way I phrase it is like, hey, you're not going to get the 100% version of me if I just play along. So I'm gonna say no to this one, sit this one out. Yeah, some feelings will be hurt, but at the end of the day, like, that person has to respect your boundary of that word no.
And I just, before I go over to Joanne, I just want to add the point to it, the part B to that, saying no, about feeling guilt. Because I believe if I say no, I'm going to feel guilty, like, I probably could have done this. I probably, there's that room where I could have done something. But so answering the question about saying no and then get to the part where how do you avoid the guilt that comes with saying no?
Yeah, so, excuse me, I got a couple thoughts on that one. When I made my first career move, to that second job, that second role, one of my peers told me, she said, you won't be successful in your new role. And I kind of took it with a grain of salt, and I said, well, why would you say that? And she said, you say no too much. You're going from the Northeast to the South, you can't say no. They don't want to hear a black woman tell them no. You say no too much. And so I thought about what she said, and I said, well, I'm not just going to say yes and go along with things, but then it made me do a little bit of introspect. How do I say no? And so I started to kind of think about very consciously as I took this new role, how can I say no without saying just a succinct no? And so I try to model things, and I don't think I was doing that from the beginning. I just think people were hearing no. But I made this very conscious effort. And so what I started looking at was, so people don't take things personally, what's our outcome? What is the key objective we're trying to achieve? And then I'm not telling a person no, I'm saying no to how we get about doing it, or no to the risks that come with a certain alternate solution for it. But we're all on board. We're going to achieve this outcome. It's just how we get there. We're gonna have to go back and forth and do some iterations on it. So like one example of that, saying no and having some fallout from it, I had a position where I said, hey, you want to do this thing, make this operations change, and this is going to have some serious consequences. So I prepared for how I was going to tell this person, not this way. And I said, hey, you are dead set on doing it this way, but there's a legal consequence of doing this, and we're gonna have to get the lawyers involved. It's not gonna pass the muster. There's also a concern with just the capability of the machines, the capability of the assets. It's not going to do it in a reliable manner, which goes back to the legal piece. And then the third piece that I went, and I thought this was a slam dunk, and I said, hey, this could get someone hurt. If you do this, you're gonna not run your process ideally. It's gonna have more human interaction with it. This is high-speed equipment. Someone can get hurt. They can lose a finger. It could be even worse than that. Like, I want everyone to go back the same way they came to work. This is not something that's sound. And I gave these three rationale, these three pillars. And to my surprise, my business partner in this said, well, get creative. I don't want to spend money. Make it happen. So even after I went through all the reasons why it wasn't the best thing to do, it wasn't the right thing to do, and it wasn't even ethical, this person still had these concerns. And what I realized was I wasn't partnered with someone with the same values and principles that I did. So the fallout was I was not successful with that person, and that person was my key customer. And so I realized it's time to find a different team that aligns with my values. It ended up working out well, but it was very uncomfortable in this situation. So I think that's a pretty extreme example of like the fallout of saying no. But I can walk away and say, I know I did the right thing, and having this one person's, having their consent, so to speak, or having them cheer on this bad thing, it would not have been worthwhile.
People really like pushing your buttons.
They
Sounds
do.
like.
They do. You know, operations, I don't know like how many of you are in the operations area or, you know, working in that spot, but it's not for the faint of heart. People get a little testy, and you have to be really firm in what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, and like have those values and those principles. So if you're saying no, or not this way, not right now, because of something that goes against a core value that you have or a core principle of your employer, those are things that you should absolutely stand on.
Yep. I believe so. Sandra, do you have an
Well, I'm
example?
going to take it a different twist. So I have two parts to it. So we're talking about being assertive, speaking up, standing up. And so whatever situation we're in the office arena or personal, your no is no, if your no be no, your yes be yes. That's just kind of a rule of thumb. If my no is no, if I'm in from an assertive perspective, it's listening to what the other person says, and then if I don't agree, like, no, I don't agree with that. But that's my no is no, not my yes is yes. So my no to that is still being professional, but no, I don't agree. You cannot persuade me to take your side. So I want a different twist. It's about standing up, being assertive, and speaking out. But my speaking out is no. I'm not agreeing. You cannot convince me to agree because I have a bill of, I got rights, but my no is no. Oftentimes we're persuaded to go the yes side because we want to keep our job. We don't want anybody to give me a bad evaluation because you want me to go along with you just because of who you are, but my no is no. You see what I'm saying? So I think from a no perspective, it's all about being firm with it, standing firm on it. Like I said before, it's knowing with confidence of what you're standing and agreeing on, even when it comes to the point where you're going to have to just say no. Then the other twist, I would say that if I have to say no because someone wants me to do something, I think my response would be that it's not that what you're wanting me to do is not great. It's just not feasible for me at this time. So from that perspective, I diffuse a conflict. I let them know that what you're wanting is absolutely great, but at the moment I can't contribute because I acknowledge that what you're doing is good, but I acknowledge the fact that I cannot participate or provide anything on it at the moment because my plate is full. Just like you said, I don't want to half-ass do anything.
Yeah.
So I think that it's my two parts was that, that your no be no, your yes be yes, but stand firm on it, even when you have to say no.
So why do you believe people avoid being assertive?
Fear. I said that just a few minutes ago. I think it's fear. The worst thing we can do is walk into a situation or put ourselves in a situation where we will not stand firm because of fear. Like I said, fear of losing your job, fear of not being the popular, fear of not being the #1 employee, just fear. I think that's why a lot of people don't be assertive. Or this is the biggest one I think I see in a lot of areas of my whole life. I'll tell you another part of me. I don't know if you saw it on the slide about also that I am, but I'll let y'all guess what that is. And a lot of people feel like I wasn't born to be assertive. I wasn't born to speak out. I was born to be quiet. That's just my personality. So we make excuses for ourselves because we feel like that's just not who I am. Sandra always talks. She's always been a talker because I'm a spoiled brat. I was the only child. I ain't had nobody to talk to. So when I saw people, I'd yabba, yabba, yabba. If I caught you, I'm going to talk your head off. I didn't have nobody to talk to. My mom and dad? Okay, come on, really? So when I got around people, I just talk. I am a natural born talker. I have other friends that not like that. Oh, we're not going to talk. We're quiet. That's my part, is to be in the behind the scenes, to the point where you'll put yourself behind the scenes and you won't opportunity present itself to be assertive, and you won't. All because you think that's your personality. So we have to get away from making excuses why we don't be assertive when we need to stand up for what we believe in. It's that confidence. It doesn't have to be a part of your personality. It's your right. So I think that that's a lot of time why people avoid it. And then some people feel the fear of just confrontations. But like I said, it's the way we approach it that will avoid the confrontation. So that's a lot of times I feel like why people avoid it, because of personality, low self-esteem, no confidence, and just taking a back seat on stuff.
Okay. One thing to add to that, I think a lot of times, and I had a conversation with someone earlier talking about children. I'm a parent, and talking about children going along with things that they know aren't the right thing to do because, well, my friends were pressuring me, or I want it to be liked. So, we're at a different point of maturity, but sometimes it's difficult to say no or go against the grain because you're concerned they're going to be upset with me. Yeah. But I think it's really important to know when, as Sandra says, to be firm in your no, and your no is no, because you might know something that someone else is not privy to and they have not considered. So it's really important to be assertive and have your point of view and communicate it and kind of hash those things out to understand, why your no is no, because everyone else in the room, don't assume they know what you know. So when you say no and you bring up some of the points of views, those vantage points of why you're saying no, or have we considered these things, that might spark some things where someone else was too shy or timid to say something, or they thought, oh, it must be fine because no one else said anything.
Yeah.
I just want to say something real quickly too. Is just a simple question to ask yourself is, do you want to be a leader or a follower? If you put yourself in that state of mind, then you're going to act either this way or that way. So I would just ask yourself the question, what do you want to be, follower or leader?
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. So I'm not picking on you now, Neda. Don't feel like I'm picking on you,
used
okay?
to it.
All right. So since you're the only male on this podium, what are some things you have done in your professional career to empower women to stand up, speak out? How have you motivated your work colleagues that are females? Just some examples.
Yeah. I seek them out. I put myself in their shoes and I try to understand, I seek to understand. Like, it's not easy to be the only one or the two of something of 20. it's, as I mentioned before, it's my responsibility to give to those who've given to me. And like I'm here because of others that have brought me up the ranks, and I've had some strong women leaders who've gotten me to where I'm at. Pissed me off in the moment, but I accepted that it was the right guidance. So I will seek out and I want to say like kind of force participation. I will ask questions. I will ask for input because it's not easy. And recently I had a colleague, or have a colleague who is a mentor for me, and she is in a position of being a director, and I could tell that she's lacking confidence right now. I simply asked her, I was like, did you forget who you are? Have you forgotten? Because I've remembered you to be this version of yourself, and quite frankly, I'm seeing like, you know, the tail between your legs and the forgetting of who you are. And I feel like if you kind of gravitate away from what you stand for and who you are, then your confidence will suffer. And to me, I just feel like as a male, and I would hope that other males who are here as well just take the opportunity to seek out somebody. Just take one or two people and partner with them and seek to understand where they're at and why, and just empower them. So.
That's really a good point, because all of us go through this in life where there are points where we hit the low and then we hit the high. So it's always good to have a mentor. It's always good to have either a therapist, somebody to talk to your animals to, even though they don't talk back. But just to air your feelings out, you just let it out in the universe, and everything start taking care of itself. So that's how I learned how to just cope when I'm feeling a little bit low in confidence. I just air out my feelings, and then I start to go into my mind, and I think, I meditate. So whatever coping method or mechanism, do it. Just go for it. So just a quick reminder, for those who are here applying for CEU PDH, you could also click the link in your in the Women of Color conference and apply for that. We're gonna jump right into our Q&A session, because I know assertiveness is a big topic, so I leave at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes to have the questions. We want to also utilize the mic here, because those who are online, they won't be able to hear us if we don't use the mic. So we'll jump right into it, so we can step right up to the mic. Don't be shy now. Be assertive. Let it be heard.
There should be a lineup behind that mic.
All right?
Hi, thank you all for your time. My question is, I consider myself a pretty assertive person, but what I have noticed is often in displaying some of these behaviors that are traditionally associated with people who are male, I am often treated differently from my colleagues than when my male counterparts display the same behavior. So how do you overcome that unconscious bias as you continue to show up as leaders, but maybe people aren't always ready for that?
Well, I'll just start off in saying that, first of all, just continue to be who you are. I don't bring attention to the room. Like I told you, I've been in that position before where I was the only female and only black. I don't even bring attention to it, because if I bring attention to it, then the room is going to bring attention to it. So I continue to be who I am. No one never changes who you are. So I think that as long as you continue to go in to be in the confidence that you have, no one pushes you from that. So make sure there's no attention brought to it, that I am the only female and him all the males. I think in the last class, it did come up about a male can say the same thing as you said, and it's accepted by the male and not by you.
Right.
And I think most of us in this room may have been in that predicament before. And the answer was like, you know what? That was just what I was just saying. Thank you for confirming what I was just thinking as well. So it let the whole room know that I said the same thing. I guess I didn't hold my mouth the right way. But however, I think to answer your question is that you never do not diminish who you are and what you bring to the table. I think that that's where we all have to be in our careers, and as we advanced up, is that it doesn't matter, I'm not going to diminish, no, because sometimes it's a setup to see how are we going to respond. There's somebody in the room who's not happy that you are the only female and that you came in with confidence. So they're going to try to push that button to see what triggers you, and if they ever find out what triggers you, they're going to continue to poke on that until they get you to break or give in. So my advice to you is continue to stay confident in that. I never bring attention that I'm the only one in here. I understand it. I know we all got two eyes. We can see that. But I'm at the table because I have an invitation to the table and I have a right to be at the table.
One thing I'd add to that is just kind of thinking about style. So definitely not going away from, like, at your root, at your core, how you operate, but think about how you adjust that style with certain people, right? Because we have a style and it's our signature, but that might not work well with one particular person. Or maybe a couple people. So there are some little, revisions and remixes that have to happen in there. Okay, this person, I need to get them there a little bit differently, or I need to lead with questions versus stating something with them, or how do I bring them in the fold and make them feel more engaged in this decision or in what I'm stating here? How do figuring out, like, who are the co-signers sometimes? And it's not a great place to be in where you need to get a co-signer there, but how do you influence that person to where they respect your no, or they respect what you know, and don't question and second guess it? And I think over time, like, I've kind of done some of those things before, like, how do I bring you into the fold? How do I get you to nod along with me? How do I do these things? And then after a while, those, like, my style and that remix are kind of meshed together, and you know your audience.
This is going to be uncomfortable for you. Ask questions. Pull those people to the side individually. Just ask questions. Why am I being treated differently? It's not going to be easy, I'm telling you, the first time you do it, but the more you do it, it's going to become muscle memory, and then you're commanding respect. But that'd be my advice too.
I kind of have one point, because sometimes it has to do with our perception as well. However you perceive something, you might be feeling like you've been treated differently, but then it's all in your mind. So sometimes, like, you just change the paradigm in your mind a little bit and say, okay, I'm not being treated differently, just shift it a little bit, put it in a more positive direction, and then see how the result turns out. So that's just my point on that.
One more thing to add to that. So you talk about being having a discomfort in initiating that. Sometimes you don't even have to go ask someone. Someone will come to you and give you some unsolicited feedback. And I've had that happen before. So, being from Pennsylvania and working, in the South and moving geographically, there's just some things that I do because I'm from Pennsylvania. And so when I went to Georgia in a different role, I had a coworker, a friend, and he said, "Hey, Joanne, the people on the floor think you're really stuck up." And I said, "What? They think I'm stuck up? Why do they think that?" And he said, "Because you walk too fast. When you go out on the floor, you're in a rush, you're moving, you don't have time to stop and say hello. They said they wave, you don't wave back. Like, they think you're stuck up, they don't want to talk to you." And so I didn't even think about that little thing. So it's my style. I walk fast. I'm in a hurry. It's cold up north. So I'm walking fast, but what was coming off was she's rushed, she's hurried, she doesn't have time. She only comes and talks to me when she wants something. So kind of knowing your audience and figuring out how to engage. And then I realized, okay, when I go on the floor, make it a point to go speak to 3 people or go do these things, so I've come off as more approachable.
All right.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
Hi. I'm working on my assertiveness. The question that I have is, I've worked in a lot of different organizations where leaders will come to different folks in the org and say, "You've shown us that you can, deliver on these projects," and they keep asking the same people to deliver. How do you go about navigating the no's in those situations and not feeling guilty because you know that you can deliver, but you don't necessarily have the bandwidth to participate in all the projects and opportunities that are coming your way?
Are you putting yourself out there to seek that opportunity?
Yes.
Okay, and you're still getting turned down?
No, I'm getting, so it's like an overabundance of opportunities because they know that I can deliver the results, but the reality is I have to prioritize and I can't deliver on all those projects at the same time. So at some point I have to say no.
Yep. I was gonna say, it sounds like that two-letter word that we've been talking about.
Yeah, so I think it's a great example of setting a boundary. So I think that's a time for you to do some self-reflection and figure out what are the things that are most important to you and what do you want to work on. And we have a leader within our organization at Google, and she talks about win-wins, like what's in it for me. So the organization is going to get something because they know you can deliver, but what are you getting if you're doing rinse and repeat of the same projects all the time, the same things, you're landing all this. So like my suggestion would be work with your manager. Here's what I would like to do. These things are great. They've been, great accolades here and great accomplishments, but where's the growth at? So being very assertive in your career from this standpoint to say, here's what I want to do and here's how I want to grow my career. And in order to do that, what things do you think I should be working on? Or here's what I would like to work on to improve in these areas. And as you go through that, if you've got alignment, those things will start to fall out. Those things that you're saying, I've already done this thing 5 times, or these other things I don't have time, then you start to have things that are more in line with it. Because my guess is that if it was something really exciting that you wanted to do, you would go do it, you know what I mean? But if it's something that's like, I've done this 5 times, I don't really want to do it, I feel bad about saying no. So how does it work for you? And having that alignment where you're getting the growth or you're getting this new opportunity to do that. Or maybe even offering, hey, can I mentor someone or coach someone else? And then there's someone that the organization has confidence in they can hand this off to.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question.
Good afternoon. I'm
afternoon.
Chris Ellis, and I am assertive. So my question is actually one that I want the panel to just elaborate on. I sit back and listen to what was being discussed, and being in an environment where I'm often in position to help facilitate promotions. I often find that I'm repeating or sharing with someone that when it comes to assertiveness, I view it as the delivery. And the delivery dictates the perception. And the perception can either come off as being confident or arrogant. I heard the question posed that was answered, you did very well, Sandra, as far as distinguish between assertiveness and confidence. What I did not hear, however, was something that is often overlapped and misconceived is the difference between arrogance and confidence. Can you guys elaborate on that, please?
I think it's excellent, excellent. Arrogancy, to me, the perception deflates, it paints the picture as I know more than you. You don't know? No, I know more than you. Confidence says that I know what I know. So those two intertwine together if we don't be careful in a room, because sometimes the personality will get in, because I said some people have very strong, confident personalities, and it will come off as being arrogant. And I had a young man that worked for me. He was so smart. But every time someone says something, he's like, well, that's not how you do that. I said, you are so, and I pulled him in my office one day. I said, can I share something with you? Can I be very transparent? You are so arrogant, but you are so smart. You know the business, but your deliverance of it, every time someone says something, you immediately deflate what their thoughts. You're not being fair. So I think oftentimes we have to self-evaluate so much. Michael Jackson told us so well, look in the mirror. Be honest with yourself and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, am I really like that? Yes, you are. And when that mirror talks back and says, so how do I work on that? Because I don't want to be arrogant, because I don't know it all. No one knows everything, but I do come across like that. And so I think once we do that and practice that, then we'll see the dynamics in the environment change. But we got to be first honest with ourselves. Do I really come off like that? If more people be honest and tell me that, there must be some truth in it. So I think we have to take those two because they'll cross over, I'm telling you, in a heartbeat. And that's not your intent, but that's a perception that has been given because you're very confident.
I would add that the arrogance piece comes in when you dismiss other people, right? So when people are dismissive, well, I know this, and because I know this, nothing else that you can contribute or add makes a difference. And that dismissiveness, I think, is where arrogance comes in, and then it's a whole different dynamic there. The other piece with arrogance that's different from assertiveness that I would add to it is not asking questions. So to be arrogant, so arrogant that it doesn't matter what you think, or I'm not going to ask you how this affects you, because you can be an expert, an SME in a particular area, right? This very niche area, but that thing that you work on, no matter what it is, it touches, it's tangential to other things, and there's secondary and tertiary outcomes. So this one thing that you do, or someone knows that they are very confident and strong in, if they don't go and seek the input of others, or go get that buy-in and that collaboration, hence being arrogant, not seeking that information, that input, then it's a whole different outcome, and it's not going to have the right the right outcomes with it, the right resolutions.
You said something that struck home with me is delivery. It's a struggle for me. I'm monotone. I don't show expression very well, and I'm an introvert. So for me, I'm fighting this battle internally, but until I started seeking out feedback, Sandra took the initiative and pulled someone in and gave the feedback. Until you start seeking it out and saying, hey, how am I showing up here? How did that land? Just to Joanne's point, asking questions. I think starting in a space of, there's layers to this. And the more you peel back the onion and try to understand why, that will lead you to not only being your authentic self, but delivering it in an authentic way where it doesn't become off-putting. So.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Right.
Next question.
Hello, my name is Jania Fraser, dual degree engineering physics student at the illustrious Carolina University. And today we talked about confidence and assertiveness. My question is, like, with that confidence and assertiveness, there's sometimes typically comes with stereotypes and biases. So what are some ways to navigate that, just in general, or perspectives that you would give to navigate those situations?
I think that's what I'm taking away from that is kind of similar to themes of the first question that we had about your style and how it's perceived by others. So, you are who you are, and you don't need to go and flex and be a different version of yourself for all these different people. So I would say to be confident in who you are and your personality, and not bend and flex. You've got personality A when you're in this room, and personality B and C over here. Someone else's bias is not going to be your issue. That would be my feedback on that one.
Yeah. And people are always going to, I think as long as we live in this world, people are always going to get a perception of us. We're not going to please everybody.
True.
But that's why I'm so adamant about knowing who you are, knowing your intentions, because when they're real, they're authentic. I'm not doing anything to harm anybody or disrespect anybody. That's just who I am. Nobody can change who I am. That's who I am, as long as I'm not, changed. So when you stereotype me, the first thing is get to know me. So I think as you continue to be authentic and be, like you said, very transparent who you are, and you know who you are, you know what your intentions are, you just have to stand on that. Some people, that's just their issue about you. We're going to have somebody in this world at some point in our whole life that's going to have something negative to say about us or misconstrue who we really are. That's called life. And when that happens, it's almost good because it helps me to know that I am real. If everybody always thinks Sandra is nice, something's wrong. Something's wrong. I mean, I'm being fake somewhere. I'm not being really who I am. I hope that helps.
Thank you for that.
Emotional balance is going to be important.
And also emotional intelligence as well. There are plenty of courses like online where you could just watch YouTube videos on emotional intelligence and how to develop yourself and how you would apply yourself to others, so you don't come off as being, rude, or you're not lacking in self-confidence. So I think emotional intelligence is something that we all should, look into or research on so we could develop our personalities or get to know ourselves better and how we navigate this world. So that answers your question?
Yes, thank you guys for your responses.
All right, next question.
Hello, Darcy Snedeker. I have a question on the topic related to some of these double standards that we see with labels and terms that are used in the workplace. So kind of an opening example, sometimes a man is passionate, but I've been called overly ambitious in these really quick settings where there's not taking the time to get to know me or what have you. So quickly dismissed, labeled, stereotyped, all these things, and also that blocks opportunities. For this particular setting, and we had a similar question earlier, but I really want to focus on how can we avoid being labeled as aggressive when we're showing up as assertive, because I think that's a common one that we see that double standard with in the workplace.
I'll start it off. I think sometimes in a room when there is a lot of commotion going on, I think I heard it say earlier, and I know the session you're talking about, every now and then, because y'all can tell I like to talk, I had to just be quiet. I'm not always the one to have to answer. I don't always have to say something. I even got accused when I do that. People are like, what's wrong with you today? You're normally the first one to talk. I have a quote that I use frequently. It may be lawful, but it's not expedient. Means it may be right, but it's not the right time for saying to say something. So I think when I balance that, they'll be trying to read my mind, like, what were you really thinking? You didn't say anything. Then I have an opportunity to say. Mm-hmm. But everything is lawful, not expedient. Sometimes we just gotta chill. Let the room speak for itself, and then I may be able to say something as well. Hope that makes some sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think even throwing out a qualifier before you say something could help too. It's like, hey, it's me again. I know I'm going to speak up, but I think just throwing it out there and putting yourself out there and saying, hey, I know this stereotype about me, but I'm gonna still say what I have to say. But you're throwing it out there and you're letting the room know, like, you know, what the assumption already is.
All right.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Layla Baker. I'm a second year at Florida A&M University, born and raised here in Detroit, Michigan. And my question was, I like what you said when you said, know what you know and stand on it. But I struggle with speaking up when I don't know, like just when I'm unsure. And as far as that, like what would your advice be to me or someone else who is in the same position as me, who wants to speak up, but when I don't know, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't wanna be told I'm wrong, but what if I'm right? So what would your advice to me be?
Well, I think one of the worst things we can do is speak on something that we don't have any knowledge on. I mean, that's leaders. Even in leaders, some people, even in leadership, people like to think they have the answer all the time when you don't. The best leader says, I don't know, but I go find out. Mm-hmm. So if you're in that position where you know it, you say you know it, but you just won't say anything?
Not know it, but like could potentially know it. Like not knowing but not knowing you know.
Yeah, I think that I think that's a self-evaluation where I go back and say, do I really think I think even earlier in the class, I had a thought in my mind, but I was like, I don't think that's going to answer the mustard, so I ain't saying anything. So I think in those particular, I mean, when we speak up on something, we really got to make sure that we're speaking correctly, because the last thing we want to do is give false information or guide somebody incorrectly because of what we thought was the right. Now listen, not to say that's not going to ever happen, because it is. I mean, we live in a world that we make mistakes, but we own up to it. But I think that if you're not confident that you can speak on it, I think just listening and observing, and perhaps you will get the right answer. You may have heard, like, you know what, I'm glad I didn't say anything because I didn't know what I was talking about. Or, you know what, I did know what I was talking about. It's that little voice that kind of makes us second guess ourselves sometimes. You ever second guess yourself? I do that a lot. No, you know, but I'm just not ready at the moment. So it's kind of like I said a few minutes ago, I just need to be quiet sometime. Maybe that wasn't opportune time for me to speak on it, all right? Because I think when we speak up and we're going to be assertive, we got to make sure that we're confident and firm on what we believe. Now, My belief may be different from yours, but there's something inside of me that makes me stand firm on what I'm believing in or what I want to speak up on. It's something. It's a reason why. If it's not a reason why, then we probably don't need to say anything, because we need to have a reason why I'm going to say or believe in what I believe or what I'm going to be confident about.
I have a little bit of a different view on this. I'm of the thought of failing forward. I've been in my industry for about nearly 10 years. I've failed more than I've succeeded, by far. And the only way I've learned, because I learn by doing, I don't learn by being told or books and all this other stuff. I learn by experience, but the only way I learned is by putting myself out there and failing. And that's when you're gonna realize what you know and what you don't know. So I would encourage you to just put yourself out there and just fail. And it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I would add to
I'll pick a back on one real quick. Is that's a risk taker. and early in my career, I was a risk taker, and I took a risk, and it was in my favor. But that's called risk taking. So yes, he's absolutely right. Every now and then, you got to take a risk because we learn from our mistakes. I like that one.
And I would add too, I'm definitely a risk taker. I would say to ask questions. Like I've been early in career and even changing industries, and maybe the way someone said something, it was unclear. Maybe you need to ask a question so you can clarify it. And then once you ask the question differently, you can process it, process that response different, or it elicits a little bit more context from that person. And then that helps you to be more confident. Yes, I've seen this before, or I'm familiar, or no, I'm not. And then you can act accordingly. But I would say if you're in a meeting, you're invited to a conversation, like have a seat at that table. If you were invited there, it's because there's something that you know that you're valuable to that project, that program, whatever it is, that meeting. So don't be silent, for sure. If you feel like, I'm not sure, I'm not confident, just ask those questions, speak up, and if you're feeling bold, and risk embracive, to Nader's point, just put yourself out there and fail forward. But certainly, don't stand on anything that you don't know to be fact. So you can put some qualifiers like, I believe I've seen this before. Let me go back and do some more follow-up on this and come back to the team. But definitely don't be silent would be my takeaway there. If you're invited, if you're in that forum, use your seat at the table. Don't get to the room and sit against the wall or hang out, in the hallway outside. You're there because there's something that you can offer.
I have one point to just, because I'm pretty much young in my career as well, and earlier this year I got invited to a meeting with the Minister of Tourism of Jamaica, and I study tourism, but then if I'm gonna be in a meeting with the Minister of Tourism and all these other executives of the World Bank and GW, I don't have that capacity of knowledge. And then I remember a book that I read, and it says, fake it until you make it. And that's exactly what I did. I went in there, I just exude my confidence, I fake it until I make it. With the knowledge that I had in the past about tourism, I just fake it, I give my input, and they were like, well, that's interesting. Sometimes you just have to fake it, and then it just starts to flow naturally. So do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question.
Hello, my name is Kinsani Carter. Thank you all for today. This has been very, very helpful. My question is probably already answered, especially with the last one. I'm going to ask it anyway, just in case there's other elements. I was recently promoted into a higher level position in my company. Prior to that, I would have gauged myself as fairly assertive, fairly confident when speaking to my team and team members. For some reason, this move has me shook. And I'm trying to, it may be 3 or 4 months, and I'm trying to not lose that part of me. And I'm not really sure what practical things I can start doing in those rooms where there are VPs in the room and there are executives. And I consider myself fairly intelligent, but I'm shook. So I'm looking for any advice.
I'd say, remember what got you there. I'm going to say the same thing to you that I said to my colleague. Have you forgotten who you are?
You said that, and I was
so
like,
that's where I would say it's like you can strategize and strategic everything the way and do it ad nauseum, but people are going to follow who you are. And that's what you did the hard work and put in the effort to get to where you're at now. You're there for a reason. You just can't forget it.
And the other thing, too, you talked about being promoted. You were already doing whatever it was that you needed to do. So all that changed is your title. So definitely don't forget who you are. And to Nader's point, like, who are you? You don't lose yourself, because you can be a leader without having a particular title. So just keep that in mind. Like, your title could change tomorrow and be something totally different, but what you bring to the table and what you offer to your peers and to those, executives higher up, it's still the same thing.
And never forget your self-worth. I mean, who you were then is the same person you are now. So my young people are like this one. I like Mary J. Blige. When she says, get up every morning and say, good morning, gorgeous. Yeah. Speak to your own self. Encourage yourself. Be your best cheerleader. I am my best cheerleader. I'm not being cocky, but who else? I can get here quicker than you can. So I'm just going, Sandra, don't forget who you are, whose you are, and who you are. And so when one of the things that when important people are in front of us or we're in a room with them, I know they're important. If the president came in right now, all you all know they're important. They put their pants on the same way we did, or they put their dress on the same way I did. I think one of the things that we're lacking in this country is that it's too much of this. We got people think that they have no self-worth because they're not up here. Everybody has a purpose.
True.
Everybody has a purpose. My purpose is not yours, but you have one and I have one. And never don't anybody diminish us that I don't have purpose. Oh, and I am who I am, and I got promoted for a reason. I'm thankful for it, and I'll always be the person that I am that got me there.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, we have about 10 minutes remaining, so we want to breeze through our questions.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Maldonado. Thank you for being here and presenting today. A question that I have, and it's been somewhat answered, but I'm going to frame it a little bit differently for the situation and scenario I'm thinking of. So I'm assertive in all aspects of my life, in many meetings, running projects, and being with leaders. However, with my direct manager, that assertiveness just goes out the door, and it's starting to creep in, and I don't want it to feel like I flipped the script on this manager when I start to push back and be a little bit more assertive with them in our one-on-ones. So is there any way I can frame the conversation around, I know that you've heard the feedback, and now I'm going to be assertive in our one-on-ones with you moving forward. So I just want to see if there's any additional thoughts or ways I can frame that. I already have some ideas, but figured it'd also be good to share amongst the group.
Can you kind of rephrase maybe a little bit? I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. You're talking about, like, you have...
So I'm assertive in all aspects of my life, in meetings and in running projects, stakeholders, all of this. Feedback's coming back to my manager, but in my one-on-ones with my manager, not assertive. I agree, I do what's asked, but there's a lot of, I guess I'll do it, not yes, I'll do it with 100% enthusiasm. So how do I frame the conversation around, I know you've heard the feedback, now I'm going to start showing up like this.
So you're saying you think you're assertive and you show up assertively, but your manager's getting feedback to the contrary?
No, that I am assertive in meetings, but not assertive with them.
Got it.
So you're assertive in meetings, but when you get to your manager, you're not assertive.
I think
so
it
you're
might
not
be a
consistent.
power struggle.
Oh, you're struggling with being consistently assertive. Is that what I should say?
Yeah.
How good is your relationship with your manager? And until you start breaking the ice and breaking the barriers of having a meaningful relationship, there's a difference between a relationship and a friendship. And relationship is you can have whatever conversation, good or bad, and leave and be best buds. And it's open and it's direct and it's to the point. You don't feel like you have that relationship?
On some days, yes. On some days, no.
Do you feel like it's a consequence if you push back?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. So one of the things I would kind of think, to share with you, to add, if you feel like you can't be your authentic self or share or push back with your manager. People take things personally sometimes. We're all imperfect. So if you're going to push back on something, make sure that it's clear it's the idea. It's not the person, it's not your manager. It's the problem or the opportunity. Like, I would say, like, frame things that way to help get that comfort when you push back. Or if you're saying no, or tell me more, or help me understand, make sure it's not, you don't make sense, it's, I'm not clear on the problem, or I have a different opinion on how we should get here. Be assertive, but make sure it's not coming off that you're attacking that person. Because definitely, we're picking up, there's a power dynamic there.
Something I've said, and I've said this to my boss actually recently, is like, hey, I appreciate everything you do for me and everything you've done for me, but as a partner to you, I owe you this feedback. Because if I'm not telling you this, then you have your blinders on, and I don't want to see anything happen. So as a partner to you, I'm going to deliver this feedback to you. So maybe throwing the qualifier out there could help.
And also keep in mind that you have a certain base. You have your attributes and your qualities that make you great at what you do. I had a situation where I saw something, but it wasn't in my wheelhouse. And this VP that I was supporting, I was like, well, should I tell him that this is not going to go well? Because he wants this thing to happen, but I see the wheels are falling off over here. And so I hadn't built that rapport yet, but I said, hey, I've got a concern. I see this is happening, and it could put these things at risk. And here's why I think this is an issue, and here's some calculations that I've done. Here's where I think we should be centered at versus this other target that's pretty like a stretch. It's a wish, it's a stretch goal over here. And the feedback I got was like, hey, you're the expert, you're the SME, that's why I hired you for this role. So your manager's a person at the end of the day, but think about what makes you uncomfortable saying no or being as assertive as you are in other forums. Is it because you don't want to go against the grain? Is it because you think if you say no, there's a consequence to it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Lexi Bynum. I wanted to ask about being assertive in a virtual world. So I'm collaborating with people who've never seen me, who are from different cultures, different countries. How do you navigate being assertive and kind of holding your ground where people are pushing back, but also considering all of the methods of communication that you're using and all the different cultural norms?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. So your virtual space is Teams, Zoom?
Yeah, Teams, Zoom. I mean, we collaborate via WebEx too. We're on meetings, but it's also, a lot of in chats and things where tone can get lost or my smile is not there. So.
Are cameras on?
No.
That's the problem. So COVID, post-COVID's now harmed us because now we no longer can see each other in the room and express how we feel, because I can take my camera off and I can be back here saying all kind of things to you. And you never know. So we got to get back to that place where we once said when electronic means became the norm, where I email now, I text now, now I'm on Teams with no camera on. So you never see how I really feel, because you can't see me. But the time I do this, so either how I'm writing, you can pick up on my tone. Symbols that I'm using, you can pick up on my tone. So to be assertive in a virtual space is a challenge because you can't see me be assertive. You have to read my assertiveness, or you're going to have to pick up the phone and hear it in my voice. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a growing challenge. It's going to become even more challenging as we continue to be in this virtual space where we're not seeing people. And it's going to cripple us in some way because we're not going to learn how to be assertive, because now we're dependent on virtual. We no longer want to see people. We want to just communicate via a computer, and especially since cameras are not on, we don't get a chance to see anymore. So your challenge is going to be always still going to be there, but every opportunity you get, turn your camera on so that in-person space can still be seen. I can't see the time.
All right. We're going to take one more question, probably two more questions. Really depends on the length. We have 5 minutes remaining.
Hi, my name is Kristen Johnson. I'm a dual degree physics engineering major at Spelman College. And a quick question is about what is I know you said too early, to be assertive very early. And personally, I'm a very much a firecracker type of person. If I see something, I'm gonna say it outright. I know you said subtlety was also key, but is there ever like an opportunity where being outward, being immediate is actually needed? Or if it has to be, there's like a balance between taking someone to the side later versus just calling it out? Because I have called people out pretty quickly when they're racist to me. I'm like, oh, you're just being racist right now, like in front of everybody. Yeah, it's probably a problem, but.
It is.
But for me, I've been raised to where I'm supposed to be here. I'm in every room I walk in. I've been told I have a aura of such where I am very, don't play with me, don't play with me. But yeah, so I'm just wondering what is too early and what could be too assertive to where it turns too aggressive, or if subtlety is key versus being just outward about it.
I want to answer that because I'm old school Jamaican, and I'm from a culture where it says not everything good for eat, good for talk. That's an actual proverb, and it means that not everything that comes to your mind you have to speak it. And I think that's something that we as professionals we have to learn as we interact with other people, that we have intrusive thoughts, and you calling out someone as racist, that's an intrusive thought. And not every time you have to speak the things that are in your mind, because you will learn the hard way. You might get in trouble for it. So sometimes you just have to hold back on your ego self and just let the thought, just let it out in your mind and don't speak it out. So that's how I'm gonna just answer that. But to the panel.
Yeah, so think about the consequences and the outcome, right? To suggest someone is racist, they may indeed be racist, but are you doing it in front of an audience? Is it something that would better be a private conversation, a one-on-one, where you can delve into it? Because that's probably not something that's going to just be like a quick 30-second response and it's resolved. So think about the resolution piece of it, think about the audience, and you need to ask questions to understand. Now, if someone uses like a racial slur or epithet, call that out immediately.
Yeah, okay.
But if it's something that you are reading into, again, you might be misinterpreting something. And just think about when you should take something offline and address it versus, to Shadine's point, not everything good for eat, good for...
Not everything good for eat, good for talk. Yeah. That's one thing you're going to learn today. We have so pretty much we're going to wrap this up. All your questions are very important to us, so we can always continue our discussion in the hallway while they prepare for the next session. Just a quick reminder, you can rate this session. A link will be sent to you after you rate this session. And for the students, always remember you could go to the app and apply for your CEU and PDH. Thank you guys so much for coming. I know this is like a good one, so have a good day.
Awesome job, guys.